Mike Mageau and Darlene Ferrin never saw the man step out of the shadows until it was too late. Their quiet night in Vallejo, California, was supposed to be just another summer evening. But within seconds, gunfire shattered the silence, and their lives became the opening chapter in one of America's most chilling mysteries. As bodies piled up and cryptic letters flooded newsrooms, a terrifying name carved itself into history: the Zodiac Killer. What followed was a game of cat and mouse unlike any other one that still grips the nation in fear to this day. In the late 1960s, life in Northern California moved at a calm and steady pace. Young couples met up on warm summer nights, parked in quiet spots near lakes or under the stars. People felt safe. No one imagined that something so dark could be hiding in the stillness. But in December 1968, that peace shattered. A young couple, just teenagers, were spending time together on a remote road in Vallejo. The night was silent until it wasn't. A car pulled up behind them. The headlights shut off. Within moments, the quiet night exploded with gunfire. The boy, barely alive, would later try to explain what happened, but the details were hard to recall. The girl didn't survive. She died before help could even be called. There were no fingerprints, no witnesses, no motive. The police began an investigation, but without any solid leads, the case faded into the background. Then, 7 months later, it happened again. Another young couple, once again in a parked car, once again in Vallejo. But this time, the killer called the police himself. His voice was calm. He gave details about the crime scene, described the weapon he used, and told them exactly where to find the bodies. Police rushed to the location. One victim was already dead. The other clung to life. He survived, but like the first case, the description of the attacker was vague. It was too dark. It happened too fast. Nothing connected the cases clearly until the killer made the connection himself. The fear that had settled over Vallejo quickly spread. The murders weren't random acts of violence. They were the beginning of something much worse. Someone was stalking couples, watching them, waiting for the right moment to strike. He didn't just want to kill, he wanted to be known. He wanted credit, and he was just getting started. At this stage, no one knew the name Zodiac. No one knew that the man behind these murders would soon become one of the most feared and mysterious serial killers in American history. He didn't kill for money. He didn't kill out of revenge. He killed to cause fear, and with each new crime, that fear grew. The randomness of the attacks made them even more terrifying. There was no pattern that police could follow, no link between the victims. They were chosen simply because they were vulnerable, in isolated places, and caught by surprise. The killer didn't leave clues that led to him. He left silence, confusion, and death. As summer turned to fall, the case grew colder. But behind the scenes, the killer was planning his next move. He didn't want to disappear. He wanted to terrify an entire country. And soon, he would do something no murderer had ever done before: send a message to the world, signed with a strange symbol and a name no one would forget. The nightmare had only begun. In early August 1969, 3 California newspapers received nearly identical letters. Each was written in strange, uneven handwriting and began with the same haunting line: "This is the Zodiac speaking." The letters described the recent murders in chilling detail, information that had never been made public. Each one included parts of a cipher, a block of strange symbols and coded language that seemed impossible to understand. The writer demanded the newspapers print his letters on the front page, or he would kill again. The message was clear. He wanted attention, and he wanted fear. The public reaction was instant. People were terrified, confused, and curious. Who was this person who claimed to be the killer? Was it a hoax? Or was this truly the man behind the recent murders? Police confirmed that the details in the letters matched things only the real killer could know. It wasn't a prank. It was real. And it was dangerous. The cipher, made of strange symbols, triangles, and backward letters, became a national obsession. Amateur code breakers, school teachers, and cryptographers all tried to solve the mysterious puzzle. Some believed it would reveal the killer's name. Others thought it might contain future plans. After several days, a high school teacher and his wife managed to crack the code. The result wasn't what anyone expected. It didn't contain a name. It didn't list future targets. Instead, it was a message about killing for pleasure. The Zodiac wrote that murder excited him more than anything else. He said that when he died, he would be reborn in paradise and that his victims would become his slaves in the afterlife. It was disturbing, cold, and completely unlike anything police had seen before. Even more chilling was the fact that he had written the message weeks before it was solved, meaning he had no idea when or if anyone would ever read it. He simply enjoyed the game, and he was playing with people's lives. The Zodiac sent more letters in the following weeks, taunting police for their failure to catch him. He added strange symbols, made threats, and sometimes claimed responsibility for crimes that were still being investigated. Each time, he ended his notes with the same symbol, a circle with a cross through it, which would come to be known as the Zodiac symbol. He signed his letters with a name he had given himself, Zodiac. Reporters followed the story closely. People began locking their doors at night. Parents warned their children not to go out alone. Lovers' lanes, once popular with teenagers, became empty. The Zodiac had succeeded in his mission. He had frightened an entire state, and the fear was spreading. Despite the media attention, despite the clues in the letters, police had no idea who he was. The killer's identity remained hidden. His boldness only grew stronger. Each letter seemed to mock the investigators, as if he believed he was untouchable. And for now, he was. The Zodiac wasn't just murdering people, he was playing a dangerous game, and everyone in California had just become a player. In September 1969, just as the fear surrounding the Zodiac letters was beginning to settle into a low, constant unease, he struck again, this time in a way that was even more shocking and theatrical. A young couple had gone to Lake Berryessa, a peaceful, scenic area popular with hikers and campers. They had laid out a blanket near the water and were relaxing when they noticed a man approaching them. He wasn't dressed like a regular hiker. He wore a large, black hood that covered his entire head, with a white crosshair symbol drawn on the front, the same one that had been seen at the bottom of every Zodiac letter. His clothes were dark and strange. He carried a gun and a long knife. But most chilling of all, he didn't rush. He moved slowly, as if completely confident. The man ordered the couple to tie each other up. He claimed he was just a robber who had escaped from prison and needed their car. Once they were restrained, he pulled out the knife and began stabbing them, again and again. The girl was attacked first. The boy tried to protect her but was stabbed repeatedly. After the brutal assault, the man calmly walked away. He even took the time to write on the couple's car door. Using a black marker, he drew the Zodiac symbol and listed the dates of his previous killings. He added the date of that day's attack, marking it like a score. Miraculously, the male victim survived long enough to describe the attack. The details he gave confirmed what many feared. The Zodiac was evolving. He wasn't just shooting from a distance anymore. He was getting closer, more brutal, and more personal. Police rushed to the scene, but as always, the killer was gone. No fingerprints, no footprints, nothing usable. Just fear, and another message left behind. Only a few weeks later, on October 11th, the Zodiac struck again. This time, it wasn't a couple in a remote area. It was a cab driver in the heart of San Francisco. The man picked up a passenger in the city and began driving toward his destination. When the cab stopped at the corner of Washington and Cherry Streets, the driver was shot in the head. A teenager watching from a nearby window saw the entire thing and immediately called the police. Officers arrived within minutes, but a crucial mistake had been made. The police dispatcher mistakenly described the suspect as a black male, based on confusion over the witness's call. As a result, 2 officers unknowingly drove right past the real killer, who was walking away calmly just blocks from the scene. Later, a piece of the murdered cab driver's shirt was mailed to a newspaper, along with another letter from the Zodiac. It was proof he had committed the crime. He was now killing in cities, not just isolated areas. He was taunting police, getting bolder, and still completely unknown. The Zodiac wasn't following a pattern. He was spreading terror through unpredictability. And the fear wasn't just in Northern California anymore, it was nationwide. As the Zodiac's reign of terror continued, the investigation into his identity grew larger and more complicated. Dozens of detectives, FBI agents, and forensic experts were assigned to the case. Hundreds of tips came in from the public. Everyone had a theory. Everyone thought they had seen something, heard something, or knew someone who might be responsible. But no matter how many leads were followed, they all seemed to end in the same place, nowhere. One name kept rising to the top of the suspect list: Arthur Lee Allen. He was a former elementary school teacher who had a troubled past. He lived near the scene of one of the earlier murders and had once told a friend that he fantasized about killing couples in the woods. He also owned a Zodiac brand wristwatch that featured the same crosshair symbol the killer used in his letters. These details caught the attention of investigators. The more they looked into Alan, the stranger things got. He had been fired from his teaching job for inappropriate behavior. He had a history of mental illness, and he seemed to match the general physical description given by surviving victims. Police searched his home and found disturbing material, including weapons and tapes about bomb making. But they didn't find anything that directly linked him to the crimes. No murder weapons, no bloody clothes, no handwritten notes. Most importantly, Alan's fingerprints and DNA did not match those left on the Zodiac letters. He remained the top suspect for years, but there was never enough evidence to charge him. He died in 1992, leaving behind a mystery that many believe he took to the grave. Alan wasn't the only suspect. Over the decades, other names surfaced: a man with military training, another with connections to cryptography, and even a few who confessed to the crimes. But none of the confessions matched the facts, and most suspects were ruled out quickly. Some had strong alibis, others didn't fit the physical description or had no connection to the crime scenes. Each lead brought a wave of hope, followed by disappointment. One of the biggest challenges was the Zodiac himself. He didn't kill in the same way every time. He used guns, knives, and sometimes just threats. He picked different locations, times of day, and types of victims. He never followed a clear pattern, which made profiling him nearly impossible. Even his letters were inconsistent. Some were neat and careful, others messy and rushed. Investigators were left wondering if the same person had even written all of them. As years passed, the Zodiac letters slowed down and eventually stopped. Some believed he had died, others thought he was in prison for unrelated crimes. A few even believed he had simply moved on, changed identities, and continued his life in secret. With no new murders and no fresh clues, the trail grew colder. But the fear didn't disappear. The name Zodiac still held power. It still caused people to look over their shoulders, to question strangers, to fear the unknown. The killer had vanished, but the shadow he cast remained long after the crimes had ended. In December 2020, more than 50 years after the Zodiac Killer first terrorized California, a breakthrough stunned the true crime world. A team of amateur code breakers from the United States, Australia, and Belgium finally cracked one of the Zodiac's most mysterious ciphers, the 340 character code, famously known as the 340 cipher, which had baffled experts and law enforcement for decades. The solution didn't reveal the killer's name, as many had hoped, but it offered chilling insight into his mindset. The decrypted message confirmed that the Zodiac was indeed the author and that he was still alive when he sent it. He mocked investigators again, saying, "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me," and declared that he was not afraid of the gas chamber, because he believed death would bring him to a paradise where his victims would be his servants. The message brought the world back to the terrifying reality that the man who once held an entire state in fear had left behind more than just bodies. He left scars that still hadn't healed. The decoding of the cipher reignited interest in the case. For a moment, it felt like the decades-old mystery might finally be solved. Investigators revisited old evidence with new technology. DNA testing, which had advanced significantly since the 1970s, was used to re-examine letters and items from crime scenes. The hope was that a tiny mistake by the killer, a drop of sweat, a trace of saliva on a stamp, could finally lead to his identity. But the Zodiac had been careful. The DNA on the letters was either degraded or didn't belong to the killer at all. Every test ended in the same result: inconclusive. The internet also gave rise to new theories and new suspects. Forums and podcasts dedicated to the Zodiac case exploded in popularity. People studied the letters, the symbols, and the timelines, hoping to find something everyone else had missed. Some pointed to new names, men with strange pasts and questionable behavior. Others insisted that the killer had never been named publicly, that the real Zodiac had stayed hidden by being completely ordinary. But as always, no theory could be proven. The case remained just out of reach. What makes the Zodiac case so haunting isn't just the murders, it's the silence that followed. The killer disappeared without explanation. No confession, no captured footage, no final letter saying it was over. It was as if he stepped into the shadows and never returned. That absence of closure is what keeps the fear alive. It's the idea that the man who killed 5 confirmed victims, and possibly more, could have lived a full life. He may have walked among the people he once terrified. He may have read the books and articles written about him. He may even have smiled as others tried to solve the puzzle he left behind. To this day, the Zodiac Killer remains one of the most infamous and puzzling criminals in American history. His identity is still unknown, his crimes are still unsolved, and his presence even after all these years still sends chills down the spine.